What's up, y'all? It's T-Tar, and the Chinese Riddler is back. So we're gonna talk about a bunch of new riddles for the Indigo Disc DLC. But first, I want to show you this. Remember, talk's been going around that Dipplin is supposed to evolve, and then we have one reading of Riddler Ku's riddles that show it evolving into this 7-headed creature. Here's a really good take to try and imagine it in game. Just look at that infestation. All from that candy apple. You know, it's almost like since Dipplin uses that apple as its home, because we gave it a candy apple, we infected its home, I guess. So now Dipplin has two, and it's gonna evolve to have a bunch, depending on how the riddles go. So this one's called Hydraplin, which is pretty good though. Technically, Hydra isn't exactly the same as the Yamada Serpent we think it should be. Remember this tweet when Ku said, "How will they show Dipplin's evolution in game? Hint one by one, so kinda creepy." You kinda imagine that Kieran sends this out and only has maybe 1 or 2 heads, and each time you hit it, it grows a head or something. Either it grows a head each time you hit it, or it has like the signature move that every time it uses it, it sprouts a new head. Anyhow, on to Riddler Ku. So Riddler Ku's posted some crazy riddles to make us think about what's supposed to happen in this Indigo disc, and I can't believe this stuff is real. So here's the first one. He posted a tweet of Peaches. So this is the grandma that runs the shop in Kitakami. I guess her name is Peachy, and she has a little peach here on display, which we've noticed, which looks exactly like the Dokutaro sprite that we can see in the game files. But Ku tweets this and says, "She is sus." So I mean, let's think about this for a sec, right? Her name is Peaches, like Momotaro. Momotaro is a peach. Is she somehow involved? You know, we have zombie in the code. Is she a zombie? From like 200-ish years ago when Dokutaro popped up with the Loyal 3. Because it is a concern that she has that peach. Clearly this whole region doesn't know the true story in terms of Ogerpon being the real hero, but they also don't know the existence of Dokutaro because they'd be celebrating it as well. So it makes no sense how Peaches here knows about the Dokutaro peach. You know, what if she was a witness back then and she's a walking zombie in the village just waiting for Dokutaro to return? I can't believe Ku wrote this, but it keeps going, right guys? Here's another tweet. He posts a picture of the Dokutaro peach and he says, "Okay, time to bet. Itself, item, or grandma's joke." So he's asking us to think why Peaches has the peach. So first one, itself, is that Dokutaro? That would be so freaking creepy if it's Dokutaro. You can open your game right now and it's right there on her shop. Imagine that's Dokutaro. What if Peaches shows up in the Indigo disc as like a big villain? What if Peaches is the one on the signboard? It's Kieran. Or it's this like empty husk. And just as Kieran seems to have resurrected the Loyal 3, maybe in a weird way, if Kieran properly interacted with this, it would wake up again and he could catch it. The second one, is it an item? So this is if this is an item belonging to Dokutaro, maybe like a remnant of its toxic chains. One fun idea we talked about before is if it was kind of like a fruit that Dokutaro gave to grant its power to people. And this is a 4th fruit that Peaches just has. You know, maybe freaking Kieran, I don't think Kieran could eat it. One weird idea we could talk about is, since it appears that Kieran's Dipplin evolution is special in a way, maybe if this was a toxic chain fruit, he feeds this to the Dipplin, and that's why it even gets corrupted in the first place. And then the third one, grandma's joke. That's a sick joke, grandma. This freaking duplicitous Pokemon that ruined your village. Let's put it on display. See, what I like about these two tweets is it implies there's more to learn, even about the parts we've already beaten in the game, not just for the Indigo disc. And this is so different than the Sword and Shield DLC, which is why this blows my mind. And I mean, if Ku gave us these 3 options, I guess it is one of them, right? So it's either a joke, a Dokutaro item, or Dokutaro. Anyhow, Ku makes some interesting replies in the comments. So about Dipplin evolving, someone asks him, "Ku, will Dipplin's evolution require level up? I already put mine in level 100. The Chinese data miners, when looking at the Teal mask code, had this theory that Dipplin's evolution, whatever it be, would not be attainable by us. But this is what Ku says. If I remember correctly, you can feed rare candies to evolve level 100 Pokemon if the other conditions are met. So it almost sounds like he's implying we can get this Dipplin evolution ourselves. Or He's just broadly answering the question saying, generally if Pokemon are level 100, you can still evolve them. Ku in the past did kind of compare the Applins to Ursaluna in this. A reminder that the 4 apples are not in the Blueberry Dex. Realize that it kind of resembles Blood Moon, huh? It's pretty much, long story short, just food for thought if Dipplin's evolution is kind of like a special form. Anyhow, continuing, here someone says to Ku, there's nothing to hide. That thing is Momotaro himself. And Ku says, cumbersome? Then someone says, it would be really funny if it was just having a nap there this whole time. The master manipulator. And Ku says, grandma is the big boss. Now obviously this last response is Ku trolling, but what really is that grandma doing? Another kind of relevant thing someone asks is, question, is evolving Duarluron hard? And Ku just says no. I think we can tell evolving is probably not going to be hard. The only like hard evolution in the game is like Runerigus. Alright, let's keep going. Moving away from Dokutaro, Ku then tweets this. He posts a picture of Terapagos baby, normal form, and says, how many abilities does this have? Okay, well going off the recent games, you know, Zacian, Zamazenta, Eternatus, and then Koraidon, Miraidon, these legendary Pokemon tend to just have one ability, not even a hidden. The rest of it says 1 or 2 or 3 or more. We gotta break this down. So if this thing somehow has like 3 abilities, it could make sense in a sense, because we know that Terapagos probably has 3 forms. This form here, then the form where it has the 18 typings on it, and then some kind of mystery form that appears to be in the code, and we would think it belongs to it looking more like the heat drawing. So in that sense, 3 abilities could make sense. Maybe baby Terapagos gets like pressure, middle form gets some crazy terror related ability, and then like the heat drawing gets some supreme ability. Maybe for the supreme Terapagos, its ability kind of is how the crown works. You know, that whole 19th type, maybe it works through its ability. So yeah, let me show you that whole Terapagos thing again. It comes from this. So Pokemon 1011 and the code is Ogerpon. This is Poltergeist and Sinistcha. The 1021s, these are Terapagos. So it has 2 alternate forms implied for Terapagos. That doesn't include the main form, which is really crazy. I'm happy they didn't show it in trailers. I guess maybe it would be kind of like Eternamax Eternatus. It might be something just demonic. But yeah, another sneaky thing we can see in the code is checking out all the new abilities. So remember, after Super Sweet Syrup, there's only 4 new ability slots, which is something Ku brings up too. So replying to this, he tweets, reminder, the second DLC only got 4 new abilities according to the data mine. At first, since he says according to data mine, it makes you think maybe the information is incomplete. But then he responds saying, hint, only 2 new Pokemon got these 4 abilities. So if some of the stuff in the data mine is incomplete, I guess the abilities aren't. Only 2 new Pokemon get these 4 abilities. Well, what new Pokemon do we have? Let's work this out. In the code, we have 8 new slots. We have Dipplin's evolution, Archaludon, Paradox Raikou Entei, Paradox Cobalion and Terrakion, and Terapagos. And then 1 mystery Pokemon, which sounds like it would be Dokutaro. Now, if Ku is gonna say only 2 new Pokemon get the 4 new abilities, I guess the most likely scenario is it's Dokutaro and Terapagos that take them all. So Terapagos gets 2 new abilities, Dokutaro gets 2 new abilities. That's insane. No, it makes more sense Terapagos gets 3 new abilities and Dokutaro 1. It depends how important Dokutaro is. Let's see some responses. Okay, so it's definitely either 1 ability for Dipplin's evolution and then 3 for Terapagos, or 1 for Dokutaro and 3 for Terapagos. You know, Dipplin is a good idea if it got 1, but no, it would keep Super Sweet Syrup. I don't think Dipplin's evolution would get a different ability. So I'm saying 1 Dokutaro, 3 Terapagos. That's insane, but it makes sense. So all 3 forms of Terapagos would have a different ability. So anyhow, last thing to leave this video off on is going back to Dokutaro with this. Ku posts, have you ever wondered why the design of Momo is that simple? There's definitely got to be some truth that I barely see people mention or speculate online. So, and it's just a gif of some sort of reveal. Like something is revealing itself when these 2 are blinded by the light. So he's talking about Dokutaro. This is the sprite we've always had. I've always wanted it to be more than this freaking head, you know? But it sounds like it is this. This is the whole design. This is the first time we're essentially getting it confirmed unintentionally by Ku that this is the whole Pokemon, at least in some sense. Have you ever wondered why the design of Momo is that simple? So apparently there's something to this design that we haven't cracked yet. Some kind of truth that he barely sees people mention. So it wouldn't be something like how Dokutaro's this manipulator Pokemon. It's something thinking outside of the box. Somehow there's some truth to this design. The weird part about this is, remember that data mine I just showed you earlier with the Sinistra forms and all? There is no slot there for Dokutaro. So if Dokutaro was this peach, and then he would like open up to reveal himself as something else, kind of like the Momotaro story, right? Momotaro's born from a peach. Like they literally cut up a peach and the boy's inside. So it almost sounds like if this is a peach, inside would be the real Pokemon. But it doesn't sound like there's like an alternate form for Dokutaro for that to happen. But then this starts to get crazy. And I love where this is going. I really want it to happen. I'm just nervous it won't. So check this out. So next thing, Ku posts this tweet saying, I bet you will be unable to look steadily at this thing anymore after playing the second DLC. And it's a picture of a Master Ball. Now, we already seen the focus of the Master Ball in this game. Sada and Toro have it. In fact, they have so many of them that they're catching all the Paradox Pokemon in them. I bet you'll be unable to look steadily at this thing anymore. I think he's implying somehow something's gonna break out of the Master Ball. If I were to guess any Pokemon, it's freaking Dokutaro. I want him to be uncatchable. I mean, this is bittersweet, but I think it's tasteful when sometimes there's just boss Pokemon and you're not allowed to have them yourself. But no, that's not the thing I was nervous about. It's this. This is what we end with. He posts a picture of a peach. It's a peach, right? It's got the seed in the middle and it's cut in half. So we're talking about Dokutaro. This is his caption. He writes, it will remind you of some Gen 7 Mon. I'm gonna take you through the Gen 7 Pokedex of candidates. Let's talk about peach-shaped Pokemon. Oh, you got like freaking Charjabug, Dewpider, oh yes, some kind of Minior. It will remind you of some Gen 7 Mon. Okay, so to remind you of a Gen 7 Mon, it has to remind you of the way this Gen 7 Mon acts or the literal appearance of a Gen 7 Mon. So he responds to this and says, yup, it can open. This only leads to one Mon. Aside from like Minior, like we crack Dokutaro's skin open and something's inside. A verdict that it could remind us of is Tapu Koko. All the Tapus. They all have this closed form. You know, here's Tapu Koko spread out, but it closes into this bird form. You know, same with Lily, it turns into whatever that's supposed to be. Bulu's a bull, and Feeny is, I don't know. But they're all supposed to be closed. So what if that sprite of Dokutaro is really the closed form of it? So it's not that it has an alternate form, because we would have seen it in the data mine. It is the same Pokemon, it just opens up the same way the Tapus do. At least that's the theory. So while we're thinking about this, let's get a visual for this. So here's Pen Paladin, and this is an image of Dokutaro, right? Based off the sprite, except we've given it an angry expression. So we're supposed to imagine somehow it can open. Imagine if when it enters battle, it opens up like this. This is wild. And in fact, imagine it was a Tapu, an evil Tapu, but forget that point for now. The main focus right now is the idea that it opens up to reveal a new Pokemon inside. So this one is drawn with all the toxic spikes coming out from below. And here's the kicker, right? Ku responds to this image and says, wow. It's as if it hit the nail on the head. I think this is what's gonna happen. It lines up with all the details we know. And this also works for what Momotaro means in the story. He's always inside the peach, just like the boy was. And then when he's done with this battle, he goes back inside the peach. This is wild. Now, the only bit that made me nervous is that I really want Game Freak to connect the lore of the regions, right? I really want somehow for them to mention, you know, Dokutaro is a rogue Tapu or something, you know? I know they most likely won't go that far, but just the notion that Momotaro is supposed to open up is plenty for me. I always hated that it would just be a floating head. Now it really seems like there's a whole Pokemon inside. Anyhow, make sure y'all shank that like button and let me know how you see Dokutaro playing out in the DLC. What do you think it means when he says it can open up, and what ability do you think it would get? It's clearly a new ability. And yeah, we got a lot more to talk about, so we'll do that tomorrow, and I'll see y'all there. Take care.